Welcome to the Courtroom Chronicles Trials of South Africa. My name is Busisiwe Mohapi, your host. And if it's your birthday today, Mdase, happy birthday. Today, Olorato's family is laying Olorato to rest. And South Africa is in mourning. And we are left with a lot of unanswered questions. We have a lot of questions and no answers. There are a lot of contributing factors to this, and I need us to look at the new developments that have come to surface. So I want us to talk about the Kawasha tent scapegoat. I want us to talk about the prayer warrior and the confession that Upila Ngenkosi Makhanya left with him. So that is what we're going to look at today. Because the truth might be buried under banner phones, ID cards, and a lot of women have come forward to say, this has happened to me. So if you don't know who we're talking about the 30-year-old Olorato Mongale, who's being laid to rest today. She was unalived and kidnapped by these guys, and the case is linked to a possible scam. It's linked to a possible scam syndicate operating across provinces. That is what we found. The main suspect, Upila Nkosi Makhanya, was unalived in a shootout with the police, the KZN, and this in KZN. And this case is far from over. So this is what we found. Ufezile Ngubane, who was first identified as a suspect, was handed over to the police by his father, but he was later released. That is what we know now. SAPS has confirmed that he's actually a victim of identity theft. Now, you would recall that the suspect who was unalived, Upila Nkosi Makhanya, was found with phones, 20 plus phones, 38 identity cards, and one of the identity cards is Ufezile Ngubane's identity card. So that is why he was cleared off. Umakhanya's digital footprint includes dozens of cell phones, ID cards, and an alleged web of accomplices across provinces. So one might be in Zimbabwe. That is what we had. So as the family has prepared and burying Olorato today, they have a lot of questions, and we have also. So their grief is tangled with a lot of frustration. That is what we see. So the family had hoped for answers. But Umakhanya, it looks like he's going to be buried with a lot of secrets, because now we have a third party telling us what had happened. And I just want us to talk about that. So it's one of those painful what ifs, What if the mother didn't tip off Umakhanya, and Umakhanya was just apprehended quietly, and there were questions that were going to be posed to him, and we would probably know what had happened. It's just one of those painful what ifs that we can't do anything about it. So he could have answered every last question, but now what's left is it's going to haunt that family. They are going to ask themselves a lot of questions, and we hope and pray that they will get the answers that they need. So this is the question I'm bringing to you, family, is that, so who did Umakhanya talk to before he died? A gospel event coordinator, the one that I call the prayer warrior, who gave him food, gave him shelter, and had it all. Umakhanya told him these things. And there are 4 things that he told us, the prayer warrior. He said Umakhanya didn't mean to kill Olorato. He didn't mean to do that. He just wanted money, and Olorato didn't have money. Secondly, this was the first person that he unalived. That's what he told the prayer warrior. He also told us that Umakhanya wanted to end his life. He also told us that he had an accomplice who is probably in Zimbabwe. That is what is alleged and what we heard from the prayer warrior. But here's a plot twist. He didn't tell the police that he had this person with him. They were talking, they were praying, and they ate, and they did all of that, and the confession, and he has a message for their mother. But not even once did he take his phone but he went to buy food and called the police and told them, I've got someone here who always rents out cars from me, but he's here. No, the police are the ones who followed a trail of looking at CCTV footage of a driver and another accomplice driving with uMakhanya around until they got to this rental apartment. So it's a little bit fishy to me. Let me know what you think in the comment section. So this is what we know now, bestie. And what I'm saying, I'm suggesting that we need to check the prayer warrior's phone. We need to check because it's either this man was terrified or he's also tangled in this whole thing. The prayer warrior, I'm talking about the prayer. We need to get those call logs. We need to get the messages, the GPS pings. Did he really not know, or was he really scared of contacting the police? We need to check those things because he's one of the people who has been cleared. According to my knowledge, he's one of those people. So here's what was found in the apartment in Makhanya's possession. Remember, 20 plus phones were found, over 38 ID documents, and a safe that has unknown contents, and the suspect's burner phone, uMakhanya's phone. So they need to check that phone and link it to the prayer warrior and see the conversations that were there. We need to know what was being mentioned there. Also, don't forget that the getaway car was the father's car. He was apprehended, and the mother was also taken in for tipping off the son. But now they've also been released like uFezile Ngubane. So I thought this thing, it targets women. This is a syndicate that targets women. But we see uFezile Ngubane is male. I don't know whether they took the male's IDs so that they can lure the woman to them. I don't know. But his ID was found amongst these IDs. So he's a victim, a theft, identity theft victim. That's what we had. So this wasn't just a robbery gone wrong. It was a modus operandi. So uMakhanya reportedly rented cars from the prayer warrior in the past. And my question is, didn't the prayer warrior know what the cars were being used for? Because only this time he didn't give him the car because he saw on social media that he is a wanted man. And he let uMakhanya in, knowing he's a wanted man. He let him in because he said he gave him a code to get into the complex, because you don't get into places like that easily. But he gave him the code. We don't know. So now women are coming forward to say and how they interacted with these guys. And they use them as if they were taking them out on dates or asking them out, and they robbed them of their things. So we are talking about a syndicate, a network that preys on women and stealing their IDs and possibly operates around South Africa and Zimbabwe. We don't know. So it isn't over. It's just unraveling. So it's far from over. So based on what we've seen, what have we seen? We've seen the fake ID cards. We've seen the renting of cars, the targeting educated black women, and using prayer and business deals as bait. So that's the modus operandi. And SAPS is now looking at a pattern, not a one-time event. So this is what we have, ladies and gentlemen, so far. And I want us to talk about the parents. The two parents and the difference, the choices that they've made. The one parent, uFezile's father, chose justice and took and handed his son over. And the mother chose silence and warned her son that the police are possibly looking and closing in on him, and he fled. One parent helped uncover the truth, and the other might have buried it. So this is what I want to say to you as a South African citizen, and to myself, in case you are thinking of it. So if you hide a suspect, if you transport a suspect, if you warn a suspect, even if it's your child, you might catch a charge. In legal terms, it is called defending the ends of justice. Defeating, I mean, the ends of justice. And being an accessory after the fact. So the mom tipped off the son, the father handed him over to the police. So if you give a friend shelter and you don't alert the police, and we've seen two people, suspects, have been arrested because they were driving him around. They were driving a fugitive. So they have been arrested and they are being questioned. It is not loyalty, Mdase. It is not loyalty. It's a criminal liability. And yes, you can go to jail for that. So we are 3 videos in, like I said, and 3 layers in. And still this case is exposing how dangerous South Africa is for women. We need to demand full digital investigations. That's what I'm saying in this video. We need to demand full digital investigations, cross-border cooperation with Zimbabwe authorities. We need transparency from the SAPS, and for protection for women brave enough to come forward. Because Olorato Mongale's story can't just end with a coffin and conspiracy. It needs to end with reckoning. So let's say her name, let's share her story, and best believe we are not done yet. So with that being said, God bless you, enjoy your day, and until the next one, ciao.